back on the record, this is the people of the state of Colorado versus James Egan Holmes, case number 12 CR 1522. The record should reflect that Mr. Holmes is present with his attorneys, and the prosecutors are present as well. And Mrs. Holmes, you may resume the witness stand. Go ahead. Thank you. Are the parties ready for the jury? Ms. Brady?
Judge, I did want to just bring up with the court before the jury comes back. As far as scheduling, to me at least, it seems like we're going to be rushing a bit if we try and get to closings tomorrow. So I did just want to tell the court that I have that concern. And I don't know if the court wants to talk about it now or see how the rest of the afternoon goes, but I feel compelled to tell you I'm getting a little bit nervous if we're going to try and get everything done in time to do closings tomorrow.
Well, let's porch ahead and see how far we get.
Okay.
I may need you to stay late so we can work on instructions, but just not everybody has to stay here. So just the attorneys who are involved with the instructions need to be here.
And I think I'll speak for Ms. Nelson. Her concern is that she wants to incorporate some of the testimony from today into the instructions, and so that's going to be that she'll have to work on the instruction after the testimony is completed before she can present it to the court, and I think that's our concern, is trying to work in what happened today into the instructions.
Well, we might be able to work on the rest of the instructions. I don't think that would affect most of them. It might affect one, and we can hold off on that one until tomorrow if we need to. So.
And also to let the court know, Mr. Brockler and I have exchanged slides for closing, and I'm going through those as I can, and I know Mr. Brockler suggested that he and I talk before we address it with the court, but that's another thing that's sort of stressing me out.
Okay, I understand. It may be something where we finalize that tomorrow morning, but I tell the jury to come in a little bit later. What I don't like is having the jury wait. If we plan ahead and we say, okay, we're going to talk about slides tomorrow at 8:30 or at 8:40, then we can figure out if we can have the jury come in at 10 or something like that. Same thing with the instructions. If we can finalize most of them and perhaps leave one until tomorrow morning, we can finalize that one and finish the copying before the jury gets here, and I can have the jury come in a little bit later. Okay? All right, let's bring the jury in, please.
Volume control.
And Ms. Brady, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate that. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury is back in the courtroom. Mrs. Holmes, I remind you that you're still under oath, okay? And Ms. Higgs, you may proceed with the rest of your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may approach with D-TR-146, 145, 148, and 151.
Your Honor, I have no objection to these photographs.
Okay, thank you. So D-TR-145, 146, 148, and 159 are all admitted without objection and may be published.
Thank you. Could we start with 146? So we left off, and I wanted to just speak with you briefly about your mother, Helen, and your father. What was your father's name?
Bert.
And was this their first grandchild?
It was.
Did they come for the birth?
Shortly thereafter, a couple days after the birth.
Okay. Was your mother actively involved with, well, your father has passed away. Did he pass away soon after Jimmy was born?
Jim was born in 87 and he passed away in 92.
So for those first years, were both your mother and father involved with coming to visit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have 1003? And so this is this a photo of your mother and father?
Yes, it is. That's at our home in San Diego before we moved to Prairie Dog. So that's just maybe a few weeks after he was born.
Okay. Was your mother really involved with your kids as they were growing up?
She was. She didn't live in San Diego. She lived about 150 miles away in L.A., in the house that we grew up in. But she was pretty healthy until she got cancer. And so she would drive down and spend time with the kids.
Would the kids go visit her in the summer?
Yes, I would take them up and actually leave them with her for several days.
Okay. Can we get 145, D-TR-145, number 1003? Where is this?
That's at the Prairie Dog House, and that's my mom, and Jim's probably about 5. That's his little pool table. And we must have been in preparation for Chris, because that was a new high chair.
Is this one of the photos you also sent your son in one of your letters?
Yes.
And if we could have D-TR-148, which is 1008.
And that's our van. And they have a little, Chris and Jim have a little koosh ball. That was kind of a fad back then of The Lion King and my mom.
As the kids got older, was she still trying to be very involved with them?
Yeah, I think she always wanted them to come and stay with her. Mm-hmm. But as my dad got sicker, she didn't have the time to do that. Mm-hmm. She was looking after him until he passed away.
Okay. If I can approach with D-TR-383.
You may.
I have no objection.
All right, D-TR-383 is admitted and may be published without objection.
And this is a short clip of your mother making gingerbread with your son.
Okay, yeah.
Do you remember watching that?
I do.
Okay, if we can play that.
We can get a Christmas tree out of this, Jim. What do you think? Okay, we're going to get the rolling pin ready for you. Okay, roll away. I'm the sous chef. Whoops. That's okay. Now try one more time across, because then we'll have it big enough. See, when you do it harder, it does out bigger. I'll bet you can do a Christmas tree there. What do you think? upside down. Do you want us to do all the dough? There's a whole big clump of dough. Oh, my goodness.
We do not say this.
Doing a lot of them. You're going to have cookies for...
For me. When we're done taking our nap, can we eat all these?
Sure. You're going to decorate them, Arlene, too?
Mm-hmm. Right behind the barbecue.
Watch it. Oh, Daddy's here. Okay, don't run into Daddy.
I do that.
Okay, well, I think Grandma's going to sit down. Okay.
Grandma's taking a break.
Okay.
Grandma's going to take a break.
Maybe Jimmy can too.
Break time.
Break time?
Yep. We took a broom and we swept away. There was some cobwebs there, so Jimmy found them. Yes, come sit on my lap. That'd be a nice thing to do. There.
Well, hi, guys. Yeah, hi.
Yes, we're good partners, aren't we, Jim? You're huggable.
He's a huggable. He likes being hugged.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well,
Turkey gobble.
we'll have our turkey pretty soon.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. Okay.
Okie doke, guys. Yeah.
What year did your mother pass away?
2008,
Where was your son when she passed?
UC Riverside.
Did he come down for the services?
He did.
How did he feel about her passing?
He was very sad because that was a long-term relationship from birth. He didn't say much. My brother gave the eulogy, and they had a church service, and he, as I said before, he greeted people as they came in, and then we went to my mother's retirement community and had some kind of, after the Mass, we had a reception.
Did he talk about being sad about it?
No, he did not, but I could certainly tell that he was we went to the graveside, and that was when I could see that he really was looking sad.
I want to talk just a little bit about your brother Dex.
Okay.
When you were growing up, you talked about some of your family culture. Was family in general also important, a part of that family culture?
Yes, very important to get together.
Okay. Now, was Dex older or younger than you?
5 years older.
Okay. What was his relationship with Jimmy?
Well, he and his wife didn't have children, so he really looked forward to Jim and was interested in him and wanted to know what he was doing and took delight in playing with him. And as he got older, the kids would fly up to my brother's and stay with him and his wife.
If I can approach with D-TR-154, 155, and 156.
I have no objection to these photographs.
All right, D-TR-154 through 156 inclusive are admitted and may be published.
If we can get 154, 3264. So what is this a photo of?
That's Lassen. It's a national park in California, and it's volcanic. So my brother and his wife Terry and Jim went hiking there. It's a volcanic vents, fumaroles, and it's a boardwalk that goes out over the bubbling hot water.
Mm-hmm. Chris also went on this trip?
Chris too. Jim and Chris flew up and stayed with Dex and Terry.
So this was one of the
Vacation.
The weeks that they did up there.
Yes.
What other things did your son and your brother do? Do you know, didn't he help him with gardening work and stuff when he went up there on those trips?
Yes, my brother was a dentist, and he had, he liked nature, and he had a fairly large yard, so he needed a ride-on mower, and Jim got a kick out of that, and he had a big rose garden, and Jim trimmed our roses at home, so he helped Uncle Dex do all that. He already knew how to trim roses. And fishing, they went fishing. Dex had his own little pond.
Can we get D-TR-155, 3261? Before that, the photo that we just saw at Lassen, that's one of the photos you sent your son in a letter, is that right?
That's true.
And this photo as well?
Yeah, this is Uncle Dex.
How old is Jimmy?
I'm thinking 3. That's a preschool hat.
Would you say that your brother and your son were close?
Yes.
Okay. And I think your daughter said that Dex and your son were close, and she was close to Terry.
Terry, yes.
That if I can approach with D-TR-384.
Yes.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, it is admitted without
Thank you.
objection, and it may be published.
And did Dex also come to your home and visit quite often?
Not quite often, because he lived first in Northern California at the northern half of the state, and then in Arizona. But holidays, whenever he could.
And if we can get D-TR-156, Exhibit 1084. Is it? No, 1054, sorry. What are you guys doing here?
I'm looking at the money to see if it's Monopoly.
There's no board.
Yeah, there's no board. Oh, we're playing poker
Is
with
that
Monopoly money.
with Monopoly money? Is that your brother Dex on the left?
Yes, it is, and Jim in the middle, and Chris.
Is this fairly common? Is this representative of the types of activities you guys would engage in when you got together on family vacations and family holidays?
Yeah, we played a lot of board games, and Jim usually won.
And if he didn't win?
Oh, I'm trying to remember when he didn't win. But we had to play another game and see if he could win if he didn't win.
Was everybody a good sport about these games?
Well, you can see Chris does not look happy. She liked to win.
Okay. But your son?
Yes, he was.
If we can play D-TR-384, which is 2573.
What are you going to do today?
Go to the beach. What I'm gonna do.
Oh, boy.
And good Lord.
What are you going to do today?
Go to the beach. What I'm gonna do.
Oh, boy.
And good Lord.
And boogie board. And what did you do yesterday?
Surf in the USA.
Would you like to sing a little bit of that song for us?
Surf in the USA.
That's very good. Do you know any other surfing songs?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. Yeah, here's the star player. Oh, there's the big number 6 on the back there. Okay, what's your strategy for today's game, Jimmy?
Well, I'm gonna beat their butt.
Simple strategy, but effective.
Only steps away from the beach. And Jimmy was playing soccer with Uncle Dex today.
And won by 1 point.
Maybe we'll get a little film of that later.
Sure.
Right in Bushy Trail at the beach, right after breakfast. In the morning, there's the boys. They're headed for this flock of seagulls. We'll kind of zero in on them a little bit here. And see if the birds just scatter. Ooh,
Was that your brother either talking or seen in the video at the end, especially on the beach?
He was seen. I don't think he'd be talking because it looked like I was filming it from way far back.
Earlier in the clip when he's talking about surfing in the USA.
Oh, I think he was filming.
Yeah.
Yes.
I noticed that a lot of these clips, the kids are young.
Yes.
At a certain point, did the kids not want to have home videos made of them anymore?
Right. And technology-wise, we were not to the point where you can take it with your cell phone easily. So we still had that big old clunky style video cam, and you get tired of hauling it around and then finding out nobody wants to be photographed anyway. So there's a time period when videos stop.
We have heard that your brother passed away.
Yes.
When was that?
August 2012.
Were you with him when he was sick in August of 2012?
Yes, we came. Well,
Objection, non-irrelevance.
Sustained.
Did he know about this case when he passed away?
he did. It happened July 20th, and he passed away August 30th.
Did he want Jimmy to know that he still loved him and cared about him?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I'll allow it overruled.
Yes, he definitely wanted Jim to know that he was thinking about him even as he was dying.
And that he loved him?
And that he loved him.
I just want to talk briefly about your daughter and her evolving relationship with your son.
Okay.
When was she born?
December 26, 1992.
So almost exactly 5 years after your son.
Yes.
Okay. What was his... Was he excited to get a sister?
Yeah, we took him to a big brother sibling class at a local hospital where they could show him, you know, what babies eat and how tiny they were to prep him, and he really liked that.
If I can approach with D-TR-307.
Yes.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, it is admitted without objection from the people. D-3R-307. And it may be published.
Thank you. I'd like to show a group of photos that have all been admitted. If we can get 3288, and it would be D-TR-307, 308, 309, and 163. So these are all photos of your son and your daughter when she was quite young.
Right. She's still using a bottle, so yeah, she was young.
In the upper left photo, what's going on there?
He's reading a Disney book to her. And in the upper right, did you say?
Did I say right? I meant left. You hit the right photo.
Okay.
Is that something that he liked to do with her?
Yeah, sometimes he'd climb in his crib and lie there and read to her.
In her crib?
In her crib, yeah.
Was he gentle with her and
Yes.
appropriate with her, good with her
Yes.
as a baby?
As a baby, yes.
Can you describe, as they got a little bit older, not yet into middle school or anything, when they were still young kids, like in the Oak Hills neighborhood, did they continue to get along pretty well?
Sometimes they didn't. They'd have minor spats sometimes. I think it was mostly when he was with friends and she'd be in the way because she was littler than the rest of them.
You had an older brother, a brother older than you by 5 years.
Yes.
Same age range as Jimmy and Chrissy?
Yeah, I didn't plan that.
Did you see anything in their relationship that caused you concern? Anything that you never had with your older brother?
Well, my older brother kind of ignored me more when I bugged him. And so I'd go away, but Chris was insistent that Jim would play. Like if the message was, leave me alone, Chris kept at it. She didn't leave him alone.
She described that as being the annoying little sister.
She did. She said one time, I just bugged the crap out of him. She just wanted to be there, whether she was in the way or not.
Despite that, do you think that when they were younger, they got along fairly well for siblings?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not perfect?
Not perfect, no.
If I can approach with D-TR-2576. Oh, no, it's D-TR-385.
Yes.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, with that objection, D-TR-385 is admitted and may be published.
We can play that, please.
There, how's that?
We're getting sound, but no visual. We'll try one more time and see if we can get it. We have to shut down and restart, evidently. As they got older, like after you moved from Oak Hills back down to San Diego, and we've heard about this, did they have periods in their relationship where they didn't get along?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you find that problematic, or did you find that like sort of a normal part of siblings growing up together?
Well, certainly siblings have times when they don't get along. I'm well aware of that. And when we went to Mel Lipsey, we did touch on that issue that, I mean, it's been mentioned in court about basketball issues. Chris, being 5 years younger, a girl, smaller, just wanted desperately to play basketball all the time with Jim. And he didn't necessarily want her glued to his side all the time while he was trying to practice his basketball. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's probably one of their biggest issues, is that he just wanted to shoot hoop and be unencumbered by his sister in the way.
But certainly there were plenty of times that he didn't mind her being around.
Plenty of times.
Okay.
Yes.
What about as they got older into their teen years?
Then they went kind of separate ways because they each had their own activities and they weren't doing side-by-side activities. They were different.
And when he went off to college?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't call each other all the time or email each other all the time, no.
Was your family still getting together regularly for family holidays?
Yes, every year.
Doing family vacations together in the summer?
Every year.
Okay. Was there, and I understand, I think you heard your daughter testify?
Yes, I did.
You didn't see the prosecution ask her any questions?
No, I didn't.
And she talked about going to his graduation. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did she ever complain to you about having to go with you to your son's graduation?
No.
Objection calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
Did she want to go with you to visit him at UC Riverside?
Yes.
Okay. Did she want to go to his graduation?
Yes.
When you would get together for family holidays or family trips, did your son and your daughter do things together?
Yes, we'd put them in the same room, either a cabin that we all shared or a hotel. And the outdoor activities we did, they shared.
Did they seem to enjoy being around each other during
Yeah.
those vacations?
Yeah.
Did they enjoy having that kayak race when you guys went to Hawaii?
Yes.
Did they enjoy playing on the bumper boats with the water guns at Big Bear?
Yeah. And we went, well, I didn't, but the kids went wakeboarding.
Mm-hmm. And
One at a time. You can't both get on a wakeboard.
did they have a good time doing that together?
Yes.
When you were together at Christmas in 2011, you said they stayed in the same room.
Yes.
Did you ever have any concerns, even though they grew distant, that your daughter did not love your son?
I never worried about that.
Did you ever have any concerns based on all of your experience with them that your son didn't love your daughter?
I never had any concern about that.
We've already talked about your son being a, well, let me back up for a second. You heard some allegations here that your daughter has abandoned your son, James.
I saw that on the videotape.
Has she, in your opinion, abandoned your son?
No, quite the opposite, actually. She is always wondering how he is.
Always interested in how he's doing?
Yes. I told her about the allegations, and she said I need to come out.
Sustained.
Clear that up?
I sustain the objection.
Now, with regard to some of the letters that you've sent your son over the past couple years, you have also included in there photos of your daughter?
Yes.
Okay. And that was with her permission, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And we won't show those photos again, the jury's already seen them, but you also got together on her birthday, I believe it was, and took photos of her and you and her and your husband also to send to your son, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you intentionally took those photos with the goal of sending them to your son, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. We've talked already about your about James's school career. In all the years that he was going to school, those 13 years, academically, how did he perform?
Really well. Above average.
Do you recall your husband talking about going to a ceremony for his scholarship after he graduated high school?
Well, they had a scholarship ceremony before they graduated at Westview for anyone who got a scholarship.
Was it around the time of graduation?
Yes.
Okay.
And so they honored each individual that got a scholarship, and there were balloons and cake and certificates and stuff like that.
And if I can approach with D-TR-188?
Yes.
No objection, Your Honor.
Right, without objection, it is admitted. That's D-TR-188, and it may be published.
And what is this, if we can see it? Are we up and running again? And it should be 686. We don't, it's not a video, Judge.
Oh, it's not. All right. And if you want to publish 385, once you get your system up, let me know. You can do it.
Looking at that document that you have there in front of you, what is that?
It's a certificate from the University of California, Riverside, in recognition of high academic achievement and demonstration of outstanding promise. Hereby awards the Regents Scholarship to James Egan Holmes.
Was that a scholarship that he had for college at UC Riverside?
Yes, for tuition, for 4 years of tuition.
Okay. Is that one of the reasons he chose UC Riverside?
Yes, but also his best friends Earl and Richie went to Riverside.
Okay. When he went to UC Riverside, you initially went to visit him, is that right?
Well, we helped him move in on move-in day into the dorms. It's kind of a celebratory day when they have orientations and food, barbecues. It's a big deal because it's the first time you move away from home.
Did your daughter, Chris, go with you guys for that?
Yes.
Was that the only time you went to UC Riverside?
No, we went, he moved from the dorms to on-campus apartment for 2 years there, and then again to an off-campus apartment for the 4th year. And we went for all of his moving and settling in, and we went to something honoring people who were going to UC Riverside who got scholarships. They had a big barbecue, and we went to orientation for parents, and Bob went to one where they even stayed in the dorms, and we went to homecoming, and Chris went with us for homecoming, and that was a basketball game. UC Riverside doesn't have a football team, so homecoming is basketball.
During his time at UC Riverside, did he also come home for holidays?
Yes, although I think there was Thanksgiving where he just stayed there because his dad went to Monterey and I had to work in the hospital on Thanksgiving, so he stayed in the dorms for one, I think.
Do you remember, so you said he moved into an apartment after the first year? Did he eventually move into his own apartment?
Yes. First, it's an on-campus apartment. It's got 4 bedrooms and a living area, and he stayed there 2 years. His roommate from the dorm, Dale, wanted to live with him again for the next year in the 4-plex. So they each have their own bedroom, which is a big deal after the dorm where you share a bedroom. And then he lived there 2 years, and then his last year he had his own apartment.
Okay. And when he graduated, did you go up for graduation?
No, he didn't want to walk.
He didn't want to attend the ceremony?
Right.
Did you find that unusual?
We were sad. We were teasing him that we'd go find somebody who was a foreign student who didn't have parents, and we'd go take them out to lunch or something, but I didn't attend my graduation ceremony at UC Berkeley. I was just like done. So it wasn't that weird.
Okay. You understood?
I understood.
Okay. It sounds like you did visit him a fair amount while he was at UC Riverside. When he was growing up through his sort of elementary school years, did you participate with him in his classes, with his teachers, as much as you could? Did you and Bob try to do that?
In elementary school, is that what?
Elementary school, middle school?
Not so much in middle school. I was working full-time there.
Okay.
Elementary school, I only had to work part-time.
Okay.
But, yeah, we were there a lot. I helped, with parties and painting and carnivals and book sales, things like that.
If I can approach with D-TR-182 and 181?
Yes.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, D-TR-181 and 182 are both admitted and may be published.
And that, I think, is 695 and 702. Do you remember his teacher, D. Trundle, from the 6th grade?
Yes.
Okay. And that first photo that you have, do you recall that museum trip with his 6th grade class?
Yes, it's in San Jose to the Egyptian Museum.
And that was while you all still lived in the Castroville area, is that right?
Yes, 6th grade.
And then this card, and if we can show, do you see the card there in front of you?
Yes.
And can you flip it over and read us the back?
It's a thank you card to his teacher, Mrs. Trundle. Thank you for your hard work and your pursuit of excellence. Your students are so lucky to have you for a teacher, and we are appreciative of what a difficult job teaching must be. Your friends, Bob, Arlene, Jim, and Chris Holmes.
Is that something that you frequently did with your children's teachers?
Yes, I like to write letters.
You said there was only one time in all of the years that James was in school that you ever had a phone call about him. Were you proud of the academic achievement that he had throughout the years?
Very proud. Okay. Very studious person, very self-motivated. We never had to tell him to do his homework. He did it.
Very independent?
Yes.
When he went away to college, was he pretty independent there?
Very independent.
Okay. Do you recall what he did the summer after he graduated high school?
That was the Salk, I think, at the Salk Institute. He applied through Westview High School for an internship, and the Salk is in San Diego. So he still stayed at home and drove to work every day at the Salk.
Pretty prestigious internship he had that summer?
Yes, they do neurological research, and they had a week of pre-training at a community college in San Diego to get all the interns ready to go to the Salk.
Okay. If I can approach with D-TR-386.
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
This is just some...
Without objection, D-TR-386 is admitted and may be published. And if you want to publish 385 and 188, now that your system is up, you can do that.
Two eggs? Okay, now Jimmy has now been playing for 1.5 years with Mrs. Vincent. And he's studying for a test to get a certificate in something.
And Chris got to Howie.
Okay, let it finish. She's almost done.
So those are just some of the events that you attended as a parent.
Yes, yes,
Did you think that it was important for you to be involved in your kids' school?
yes.
Why?
Well, partly just to show them that we're thinking of them and we care about what happens at school and we care about what happens to you, and partly to see if things were on track and good academically, and to see what happens at school in terms of the environment and whether it's safe and whether the kids are getting what they need.
There was also a little clip in there of your son playing the piano. Is that something that you encouraged him to do? You mentioned the trumpet before as well.
Both the kids had piano lessons. We bought a used piano. I had piano lessons. My brothers had piano lessons. So they started with piano, and then they picked their other instrument. And Jim did trumpet, and Chris did clarinet.
Why was it important for you to have music in their lives?
I just think music in general is important for calming people down, and it's a good hobby. I've read things that say it helps you with mathematics.
Sustain.
Did your son continue, after the trumpet, did he continue on with music?
No. Once he started high school, he had too much homework for much else.
Okay. And I think he was also playing soccer in high school.
Yes.
Was there a point in time that you noticed him stop playing soccer?
When he went to Riverside, there were like, what do you call them, like in pickup game type things from different dorms play each other. But I think after the second year, he had a lot of work to do, so he didn't do that.
Did you notice his coordination in soccer decrease over time at all?
Yes.
About when was that?
10th, 11th grade.
Okay. He still continued to play for some time after that?
He did.
Okay. He wasn't as good as he was before?
No. He was very, very fast when he was young. But as he got older, his coordination was a little less. Yeah.
After he graduated from UC Riverside, I want to talk just a little bit about that year. Tell us about your son during that year.
After UC Riverside?
Yes.
That was a difficult time. He came home and didn't come home with a plan, and I'm a planner, so that was hard for me to accept, that he didn't know what he was going to do next. He slept a lot, stayed up late, and slept in. So I would be already gone to work, and he was still in bed. And he did some gaming and TV. I just didn't see him as the guy that was so motivated and busy that I had seen prior. He was not talking or getting up and doing stuff, or once in a while going out with his friends, but almost never. And so I got mad.
What'd you do?
I told him, you need to do something. You need to get up and do something, get a job. You didn't get into grad school, you must do something. And he didn't react angrily or say anything. He just went to the computer and started job hunting.
And how soon after that was he working?
We signed on with the temp agency because he still wanted to try and get into grad school. So he knew he wanted a temp job. That's what he told me. So the temp agency found a job, and in 2 weeks he was working full-time.
I understand he was working a night shift. Is that right?
Yes, 10-hour shifts.
Did you see him, although at points during the time that he was working that job?
Well, I worked a day shift, and he would leave for work in the afternoon and would not get home till the middle of the night, a 10-hour shift, 4 days a week. And I well know that shift work makes you really, really tired, and when you have a day off, you sleep a lot. And so I really did not see him very much during the time he was at Marical.
Okay. Did you see him like on weekends?
Yes.
Okay. Did he seem to like the job?
Yes, he did. He didn't he didn't intend to stay there, but he said that it wasn't hard work and that they weren't mean, but that at lunch break everyone spoke Spanish, so he didn't really have interaction at break time.
When he was reapplying to graduate school, was that something that you guys encouraged him to do?
Yes.
You and your husband?
Yes.
Is it also something that he seemed to want to do?
Yeah, he just did it. We didn't make him do it.
When he didn't get into graduate school the year before, what was his reaction to that?
Well, he said he was disappointed. I believe he did have one interview at UC Irvine, but he said that he felt he didn't interview well. He was very quiet about it. He just withdrew.
Okay. Did he act out in any way?
No.
And was that, again, very consistent with who he was as a person, who you knew him to be?
Yeah.
And then he tried again the next year?
Yes.
I want to talk just a little bit, I want to touch on some of the family trips that you did. Before I get there, though, I want to approach with D-TR-195, which is 981.
No objection.
All right, D-TR-195 is admitted and may be published without objection.
And what is this, Mrs. Holmes?
It's an invitation to the baptism of both the kids.
Why was that important that your son be baptized?
I was raised in the Christian faith, and I still am a Christian, and I believe in the principles of that faith. And baptism is a way to recognize that you are a part of the church and a part of the faith, and that you recognize the existence of God.
Now that was something that was important to you, is that right?
Yes.
And we have heard that when your children were younger, they did attend church with you.
Yes.
That in Oak Hills you bribed them with Taco Bell.
Yes, that is true.
Did that seem out of the ordinary to you, that young kids would not want to get up early on a Sunday morning and go with their parents to church?
Not at all out of the ordinary.
Did you see that with some of your other friends?
Yes, some of them just gave up.
And to be fair, your son did not, while he was baptized in 1994, and he did go to church with you when he was younger,
Yes.
in later years that tapered off. Is that fair?
Yes, after we moved back to San Diego, he was old enough to ask me questions about how I could believe in something that wasn't tangible. He didn't use that word, but he was old enough to start being scientific and questioning, how can you believe that God exists, God created everything, and his questions were not answered to his satisfaction, that he could believe in these things without proof.
Now, nonetheless, did he still participate with you in some activities at church?
Yes, he did. It was a friendly church, and the people were nice to him there.
Okay. And the church really encouraged volunteer service, is that right?
The church has a lot of opportunities for volunteering,
Okay.
a lot.
And he never complained about having to participate in those things with you, did he?
No, he didn't. Mm-mm.
Okay. With regard to your family trips, if I can approach with D-TR-198, 199, 200, 201, 202, and 203.
I have no objection to these photos.
All right, you may approach, and D-TR-198 through 203 inclusive are admitted without objection and may be published.
And if we can get 3281, which is a group of photos, one has been introduced before, which are D-TR-355, 198, and 199. When we've talked already about some of the family trips that you did, was it always important to you and your husband to take your kids out to activities?
Always. Yes.
And so what are these activities that are shown here?
The left is Where's Waldo at the San Diego Zoo. It was a hunt around the zoo, and they would stick a figure of Waldo at different spots. You would follow the clues, and then at the end you got a live Waldo to take your picture with.
Is that something your son really enjoyed?
He did.
Okay. And then we've heard your husband talk a little bit about the upper right-hand photo, which is Disneyland.
Yeah, that's the teacups.
Okay. And your kids had a good time?
Yes.
And then the bottom right photo?
Yeah, that's Disneyland also.
Okay. Jimmy's a lot younger there.
Yes.
Was Chrissy even born yet?
No.
Okay. if I can have D-TR-200, which is 991. I think I'm back in order now. No. The Dos Picos. Can I see D-TR-200? Thanks. That's 991. Your husband talked about some camping trips that you guys went on when you were
Yeah.
when the kids were young. Did you continue camping as the kids got older?
I'm trying to think when we stopped camping. We started out with a tent when they were little, and then we bought a crank up the top, a pop-up tent trailer, and we had that until they were maybe until Jim was about 15.
Mm-hmm. Was it, if, I think it's, I was wrong, it's 997, if we can have D-TR-200? Was it important for you to have your kids out in nature?
Very important, a priority.
Why?
Well, for one thing, just to keep active and not get overweight. And for another thing, to be appreciating creation and to learn about plants. And we have farming in my background. I still have relatives who are farmers. And I think it's really important to understand how things grow.
If I can get 3283, which is a group of photos that are there in front of you, which are D-TR-201, 202, and 203. So are those some examples of activities that you took your kids on to get them outside?
Yeah, the one on the left is Pinnacles, which is, it has become a national park in Northern California. They have a lot of caves with bats, and we go hiking. And then upper right, it snows, so it's probably either Big Bear or Lake Tahoe.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go tubing, and Jim snowboarded. And then lower right is Pismo, and we had the tent trailer still then, so we went just running around the beach and horseback riding. You could ride your horses right on the beach.
When you guys would go hiking,
Mm-hmm.
who was in the lead? Who was at the end?
I was at the end, and Jim would kind of check on me, especially on the uphill. And Bob was a good hiker, and so Chris would want to be with Bob because she wanted to be in front.
Did you appreciate that your son would stay back and make sure you were okay?
Yeah, I did. Somebody had to.
We've already talked a lot about your family, it being important to your family to get together on the holidays. Did that include your entire family, the extended family, when they could come?
Extended meaning
like outside you and Bob and Jimmy and Chris?
Yeah, siblings and grandparents, yes.
And what holidays were important to your family?
Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter, we usually stayed home because we had these Easter egg hunts for the neighborhood for 5 to 7 years. We did it quite a long time.
And we've seen the photograph of you and your daughter and your son and Bob's mother up at Aunt Betty's.
Yeah.
Do you go up there regularly?
Every single Thanksgiving, that was the time we went to Betty's for dinner.
And you would also see your husband's brother?
Yes, he lived up in the Bay Area.
Okay. And what holiday then would you spend Christmas with your mom or alternate back and forth?
Yes, sometimes we do both. We drive to Monterey and drive to my mom's place.
Okay. If I can approach with D-TR-25388.
No objection.
Did you say 388?
I did.
Okay. D-TR-388 is admitted without objection, and it may be published.
Uh, 2580. Now we have video and no sound.
Thank you for this wonderful day and a happy Christmas we've had, that everybody's healthy and happy and I'm glad everybody's here. And I hope everybody has a good Christmas.
And thank you. We're very glad to be here.
Wonderful day and a happy Christmas we've had, that everybody's healthy and happy and I'm glad everybody's here. And I hope everybody has a good Christmas.
Yeah, I object to watching this twice.
Well, I think he's doing it because of the sound, but it's still not there. So
Is this your family sitting around the holiday table?
Yes, the grandmas and Bob's brother and little Jimmy. We called Bob's brother Big Jimmy. It's Christmas.
The last couple areas I want to get into is based on knowing your son since he was born. In your experience with him, have you ever known him to be a mean or mean-spirited person?
No, the opposite. I would say he was sensitive to what people were thinking and needing.
Did you ever know him to be rude or disrespectful?
No.
Would you ever describe him as being the poor loser?
No.
The guy that wanted all the attention?
No.
Would you describe him as selfish or self-centered?
No.
I want to talk to you about some of the things that your son has done in his life. Are you, well, if I can approach with D-TR-216 and 392.
yes.
No objection.
Without objection, D-TR-216 and 392 are admitted and may be published.
And if I can get 216, which is 1088. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And who is Mr. Truscott?
There was a family karate center about 3 miles from our house, and Mr. Truscott ran the family karate center.
Okay. And did he ask you to write up the good deeds of your son?
Yes, he wanted to emphasize more than karate moves and to build character And at that time, karate was really big among kids. They were signing up in droves.
And can you read this letter to the jury?
It says, good deed letter for Jimmy Holmes. Dear Mr. Truscott, Jimmy Holmes has done several good deeds for his family. He has helped watch out for his baby sister Chris and made sure that Chris didn't fall or hurt herself. He's helped set the table for dinner and cleared the dishes after dinner. He brings in the mail, feeds the dogs every morning. Jimmy enjoys martial arts. He has never misused his karate skills and never plays, in quotation, karate. Thank you for your time and your good teaching. Sincerely, Arlene Holmes, Jimmy's mother.
What year would that have been around?
Let's see. Probably 93.
So he would have been 6 years old?
Yes. Chris was born in 92.
You've also heard some testimony about your son volunteering, doing some volunteer work at the church.
Yes.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
And was he required to do that volunteer work for the school?
They actually are required to do volunteer work.
Okay. And he wrote a report about that?
Yes.
And if you can read what he wrote, that last, not the entire thing, it's a little lengthy, but if you can read the last paragraph.
Okay.
On page 2. And this was the volunteer work that he did that Doug Szymanski testified about the other day. Do you recall his testimony?
I do.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. It's about the volunteer work he did on the maintenance day at the church. So you want the last paragraph?
Yes.
Of this? Primarily, community service lets people in need to be served. I serve these people in need by tidying up their environment. I also help children directly through supervision of them producing crafts. My activities gave me a sense of joy and productivity. I knew that what I was doing for the community was truly benefiting people. Hopefully the people who are subjected in my community, that's how it's written. Hopefully the people who were subjected in my community service will now advocate kind means in their community also. After helping people, one can know that they have done something useful in their society.
Was it important to you to teach your children the value of volunteer service?
Yes.
Is that something that you grew up being taught?
Yes.
Do you feel that your son embraced that value?
Yes, I think he did. I think he enjoyed it. He didn't complain about any of the volunteerism he did at Westview. He volunteered at the Red Cross, and he came home and told us every day what he did, and that he liked it there, and they liked him.
Did he get some sort of appetizer coupon when he volunteered at the Red Cross sometime?
Yeah, they gave him a reward coupon for Chili's, and he took us out, and we ate his coupon.
What about his time at Camp Max Strauss? Now, that was a summer job.
Yes, it was a paid position.
Okay. Were there other things he could have been doing that summer?
Yes, that was his choice. We knew nothing about the job listings at UC Riverside. He went to get the job himself. He picked the job himself.
Did it seem to you that he enjoyed that work with the kids?
Yes, he had a lot of concern for the kids, that they weren't too homesick or crying. And he came home once for a 4-day weekend and told us about different kids. Some of them had never been away from home before. It was the first time.
Did it seem to you that he enjoyed working with kids in general?
Yes, he liked kids a lot. They kind of gravitated towards him because he was so quiet.
Were you aware of his work at Corazon de Vida? In Mexico?
I knew that was for UC Riverside volunteerism, mm-hmm. Yes. I don't know how many times he went.
Again, that was an opportunity that he chose.
Yes, there were lots of different choices for volunteer work.
Did he tell you, or did he seem to get enjoy that work with the children in the orphanages?
Yes. Yeah.
Was there a time that he had fire evacuees stay at his apartment in UC Riverside? He opened up his home to them.
Yes. I think they were actually from San Diego, and there was an enormous fire in San Diego, and his roommate had friends that needed somewhere to stay that had to be evacuated, so they stayed in their apartment.
Was there an elderly woman in the neighborhood that he helped out?
Next door, she was in her 80s, and she wasn't very well, and so he would pick up groceries, and he would take her garbage out for her because it's heavy to push. Yes.
Was that something you made him do?
No, not at all.
Did you all as a family donate food for people in need? Food that you would go get at Stater Brothers?
Yes, when we went grocery shopping, I'd give the kids money, and they would be maybe high school and middle school ages, and then I would explain what's perishable and what's not, and then I would just let them spend the money and buy non-perishable and put it in. At holidays, they have those baskets where you donate at the front door, and so they got to do their own shopping and pick what they wanted to donate.
Did he ever buy stuff for himself instead?
No.
Was he good at spending that money wisely?
He's very good at budgeting and incredibly frugal.
Was he able to get the most out of that money to donate?
Yes.
Okay. Were these activities typical of your son growing up?
The volunteering and the helping? Yes.
I want to just talk to you a little bit more about your contact with your son since this case came about. And I understand that you were able to see him shortly after the events of July 20th.
Yes.
Have you been able to visit him much more? How many times have you been able to visit him since then?
3 times.
And would you like to be able to visit more?
Yes.
Do you know why it was that you were not able to visit as many times?
Part of it is that he needs to be protected. We can't just go to the visitor room like any other inmate family arrangement. He needs security. I guess that's obvious from the courtroom. And it's inconvenient for law enforcement to make these arrangements, but they did it and got the extra security for us to be able to see him.
Is part of it because you're not here? You don't live here in Colorado as well?
No, we've flown to Denver 12 times easily, and Bob's come without me, and Chris has come 3 times, and it's not because he's here. It's just not always possible to come and see him.
Okay. When you've come on the other trips, have you come in part to see your son in court?
Yes.
Has it been important for you to actually see him?
Yes.
In any way you can?
Yes, to be in the same room with him, but also to follow his case and see what's going to happen.
In lieu of, well, not in lieu of, but in addition to the times that you visited him, you've also written him really regularly over the last several years. Is that fair?
Yes,
And I think that you write him almost on a weekly basis.
yes.
In a lot of these letters, you talk about his life.
Yes, I do.
Why has it been important for you to talk to your son about his own life?
To show Jim that what,
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Yes. All right, the objection is sustained, but Ms. Hicks, you may proceed as we discussed.
Why was it important to you to write so frequently to your son?
To maintain a connection and show him that even though we're not here, we are thinking of him every day, and we care.
In the future, is it important to you to continue to visit your son
Yes,
and to continue to write to your son?
yes,
Do you intend to do that as much as you possibly can?
yes,
Is he, after it all, somebody that is important to you?
yes,
After it all, is he still a member of your family?
definitely,
Is he still your son?
yes,
Do you still love him?
yes.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Do you have any cross-examination, Ms. Pearson?
One moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
No, Your Honor.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. There may be a question. Hold on a second, if you would, please. Thank you. Thank you. Would counsel please approach? Mrs. Holmes, the jury has submitted some questions that, based on the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law I have determined that are appropriate. The questions are as follows. You said James showed sadness out of his grandmother's gravesite. Did you ever see him shedding any tears at that time or later, at least that you saw?
Not at his grandma's gravesite, but earlier as a kid. I did see tears when the dog died. I did see tears when his dad got real sick from a business trip to Washington, D.C. and came back with pneumonia. And he was crying because he was worried. He did cry.
The next question is, when did James begin talking?
About
next question is, did he talk more when he was little than he did as he grew up?
Yeah.
The next question is, was James an affectionate child?
Yes, as a young child, probably about 11, he wanted us to hug him and all, but there are some kids that are just constant huggers, and I wouldn't describe him that way.
And the last question is, did James talk much and share his feelings with Mel Lipsy?
No, not really, not very much.
Any follow-up questions, Ms. Higgs, either based on the questions from the jury or based on my comments at the bench?
Yes. Mrs. Holmes, why is it important to you to this day to talk to your son about his own life experiences?
It's important because I want him to remember. I don't want him to forget the past, and hopefully that he can carve out some kind of a future in these circumstances based on what he was in the past.
Do you have concerns that why are you concerned that he might forget?
I've heard the court testimony that this disease...
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Your Honor, can we approach?
Yes. All right, Ms. Higgs, you may ask that question.
Thank you. And Mrs. Holmes, the question was, why are you concerned that your son might forget about his life?
I am concerned that he may have decline in cognition in the prison environment, and I want to help him keep his mind active and not declining as much as I can, and to keep a connection and reassure him that we're there for him if he has some need.
Ms. Pearson, do you have any follow-up questions based on the jury's questions or the discussion of the bench?
No, Your Honor.
All right. May this witness be released from her subpoena?
Yes, sir.
Is there any objection, Ms. Pearson?
No, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, thank you.
Do I leave this?
You can leave those there, yes, thank you. Would counsel approach, please? Yeah, let me have Ms. Brady and Mr. Bruckler. members of the jury, it's 4:30, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjourn for the day. I know you were enjoying talking to each other with the static noise in the back, but I think what I'm going to do is just break for the day and then have you come back tomorrow at 11:30. That way you're not waiting around for us. There are some things that I need to get done with the attorneys outside your presence. And the last thing I want to do is have you wait around too much at least. And I'm hoping that when you get here at 11:30 that we're ready to go. So since we're starting late at 11:30 tomorrow, let's plan on you having lunch before you get here. We'll still take breaks throughout every hour and a half to 2 hours, and you'll be able to have snacks and things like that. But if you would either eat a late breakfast or brunch or eat an early lunch, that would help, because we're probably not going to take a typical 1 hour or 1.5 hour lunch break. Does that make sense? All right. So make sure, please, that you comply with all my advisements overnight. They all continue to apply. They all continue to be extremely important. And then let's plan to have you back here tomorrow morning at 11:30. It gives you a little chance to sleep in. For those of you who are not feeling well, I hope you feel better, and hopefully that helps the rest. And then for those of you who are hanging in there and healthy, remember my order. You got to stay healthy, all right? I'll see you tomorrow morning at 11:30. Thank you, folks. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom now. I need to give my court reporter and my staff a break, and I'm sure you folks could use a break. So what I propose is taking about a 15-minute break and then proceeding after the break with the Curtis advisement and the advisement related to allocution, and then going into the instructions after that. In terms of the attorneys, I don't need everyone to stay here. Whoever wants to be here can be here. Whoever thinks he or she needs to be here can be here. So I'll leave it up to you. And if you want to stay here for the Curtis advisement and the advisement related to allocution, you can stay here for that and then leave if you wish. That's okay as well. All right? So let's plan to be back here in 15 minutes. The court will be in recess. Thank you.